The Gloriana set by ThebeMoon. Chapter 79. Epilogue. 5 Things. Hermione woke bathed in sunshine. Draco's high-ceilinged bedroom at the Chateau de Malfoy was 5 times as large as his rooms at Hogwarts, but very similar, with the same blue velvet curtains with golden fleur-de-lis and the colourfully painted furniture. But this room's main window overlooked expansive grounds dotted with statues and fountains, with vineyards in the distance. The carved-wooden desk held his glass Patronus ball on its delicate silver stand. With utmost caution, Hermione sat up, blinking in the morning light. The long lump beside her, hidden beneath the cream silk coverlet, didn't move. Thank Merlin. He reached out an arm and pulled her beaded back off the nightstand along with her wand. A muttered spell, and she'd summoned her loop notebook and pen. With any luck, she'd have time to record her thoughts and plan her day. Hermione flipped to a fresh page and touched ink to paper. It was important to keep a disciplined mind. Her thoughts refused to comply, however. Instead, they roamed freely over the weeks at Hogwarts since Narcissa's trial. Pansy had proven very creative at distracting the student body from Draco's perceived villainy. When the school had settled down a bit in December, and Draco started getting threats again, everybody's secret gift scroll suddenly vanished. Ernie and his prefects tried to recreate the gift list, but of course half the students lied about their drawn names, which created more chaos. Squeaky mice thrived on the uproar, and Hermione darkly suspected that Leela, with Pansy's encouragement, was happily making things worse. Percival wore his transformed Potter Stinks badge for an entire day before noticing it read, "Do your homework." He complained to Draco, who spent most of Friday night in his room working to change it back. Hermione watched from his bed, where she was reading Vazir's Curses of Home and Hearth book while wearing a small lacy thing and trying not to look smug. The next day, Hermione secretly taught the switching spell to Leela, who chummed the badge to flash phrases like, "Eat your veggies" and "Write your mother," and Hermione's favourite, "Potter's cute." With all the gift scrolls vanished, Ernie begged Hermione to help him cast the spell again. Hermione airily refused, proposing a nice trivia tournament to take everyone's mind off things. So the head boy recast the spell himself, adding all his prefect's suggestions, and the charm collapsed under the weight of its many amendments and assigned everyone the same name, Marcus Fix. The student body revolted, and the controversy dragged on until McGonagall herself took a hand a week before the holiday feast, casting an efficient spell that assigned each student a name and prevented any swapping. Hermione drew Ernie's name and wrapped up a stack of books on effective leadership and his very own life organization optimization plan. At the holiday feast, Draco presented Lavender with a pair of socks with Theo's face in a little heart, charmed to show Theo blowing kisses. Lavender put on the socks right there at the Gryffindor table and shortened her skirt to display them, and Hermione couldn't hide her grin at Theo's outraged expression. Luna gave Draco with a hand-painted model of the Malfoy meditation retreat, complete with a tiny fountain of renewal trickling minute drops of water. Draco managed a pained smile and a quiet thank you, but Hermione thought it was lovely and set it up in his bedroom at Hogwarts. Luna's model certainly was better than Hermione's own gift, a book on decorum titled "To Be Truly a Lady," from Justin Finch Fletchley. Hermione glared down at the book, curbing her desire to incendio it. Bloody hypocrite with his grassy make-out space and bottle of siren scotch. She ended up reading the book over the holidays and owling Justin 6 feet of parchment with her notes and annotations. "You stick with him," she told Brownie as she tied the heavy scroll to his leg. "Don't leave until he's read every word." The morning after the holiday feast, Hermione and Draco prepared to board the Hogwarts Express in a tense mood. Squeaky mice were running amok on the platform, each wearing one of Hermione's knit caps. Draco looked a little sour at the sight of Ernie wearing a matching black cap with a big yellow pom-pom. Hermione asked sweetly if Draco would like his own silver and green cap. Certainly, Bloom and Pratt seemed to enjoy theirs, and Draco's ear did look a bit pink. Draco just gave her a haughty sneer. He and Hermione were both sleep-deprived, and not in a good way. Draco had finally realized the night before that Hermione hadn't been glamouring her mudblood scars. They had truly faded, with only faint silvery letters remaining. He demanded an immediate explanation, and then promptly exploded, ranting about the dangers of brewing experimental potions and testing them on oneself with only a witless painting to help. Then he dragged her off to the infirmary and woke up Madame Pomfrey. The matron gave Hermione an antidote for aconite poisoning, although Hermione insisted her pupils weren't dilated and she was only sweating from her sprint from the Slytherin dungeons. Draco then broke Hermione's wards around the potions app and laid into Snape, who merrily raised a painted eyebrow. The portrait had a few choice things to say about Draco, leaving a dangerous witch to her own devices, while he ran off acting like a bloody Gryffindor. The next day, Draco was still moaning about the scar solution, not to mention his precious badge, which, despite all of Draco's effort, was now stuck at Potter the Wonder Aura. He and Hermione bickered the entire train ride to London, and their friends left them both at platform 9 3/4 with obvious relief. With Draco's parents in Azkaban, Hermione had made the reckless decision to bring her still annoyed boyfriend home with her for the first week of Christmas holidays. After all, she reasoned, if her mother didn't send Draco screaming out of her life, nothing would. Mum behaved quite well at the train station and drive home, but alas, it couldn't last. "So, Draco," Mum said as they ate dinner that night in the Grangers' wood-panelled dining room, "I understand your family did their best to kill our Hermione during the war." Draco blinked and set down his fork. "Yes, I'm afraid so." "They weren't very competent about it," Mum observed with a sip of her wine. "No," Draco admitted. "I was a shit Death Eater myself." Dad barked a laugh, but Mum looked disapproving. "So I've heard. Cursed necklace, poisoned wine. Shockingly inefficient." "Yes, well, you see, my heart wasn't exactly in it," Draco said apologetically. Hermione rolled her eyes. "Honestly, Mom, we should all be grateful that it wasn't." "I suppose," Mum said, but she fixed Draco with a cold eye, and her thoughts were clear. Slacker. Mum was quite impressed by the Gloriana set, however, and looked Draco up and down before suggesting that Hermione infused the Malfoy ring with similar magic. "He is a very good-looking young man, dear," she commented. "I can see why you might forgive a questionable work ethic." To Draco's surprise, Hermione insisted on telling Mum and Dad all about her adventures at school. She had sworn not to keep things from her parents anymore and tried to keep her promise, although she did skim over the rougher parts at the not hunting shack. She even told them about petrifying Draco in the charms classroom. Mum nodded approvingly at Hermione while Dad frowned at Draco. Dad adored Squeaky Mouse stories, and Mum was extremely interested in anything concerning the Malfoy family. Both of her parents were appalled by the blood messages, although Mum only nodded thoughtfully at the news that Narcissa had cast a spell. After Christmas service, Hermione told the story of Astoria's necklace and her own visit to Lucius' Azkaban cell. Dad and Draco were both scowling when she finished describing her talk with Lucius, but Mum just looked smug. "Well, dear, that's what happens when you don't keep your men in line," Mum said as she served them all eggnog. "They fall into bad company with masks and all, and next you know, they're getting tattoos and chasing younger women. This whole Voldemort thing was obviously a badly managed midlife crisis." Mum smiled kindly at Draco, who sat in frozen horror, clutching his untouched eggnog. "That's it," Draco hissed at Hermione while her parents went upstairs to fetch more presents. "It's official. Your mother is scarier than mine." Draco practically ran from the house to Azkaban Christmas afternoon to visit Narcissa, while Hermione went to the Borough. On New Year's Eve, they attended Harry's party at 12 Grimmauld Place. Harry and Ginny circled each other all evening, but shared a passionate kiss as the clock told midnight. Then Ginny danced off with those annoying harpy friends of hers, who would not stop oogling Draco. Hermione checked in with Harry, who said with a smile, "She'll come back." Then Hermione went to Ginny, who gave her the exact same smile and said, "He knows where to find me." At that point, Hermione just gave up and rescued Draco from Luna, to turn up with Bloom, the slightly more intelligent former Beta, and was making very suspicious hand gestures. Ron and Draco later met by accident at the drawing room's makeshift bar and traded nods and paint smiles. Hermione and Draco stayed at the Leaky Cauldron that night, and the next morning took the inkpot portkey to the Chateau de Malfoy in southern France. The chateau lived up to all Draco's promises. The library was extensive, and the fishing village truly seedy. The only disappointment was Aimée. Whenever Hermione said freedom, or money, or clothes, the elf cried, "Je ne comprends pas," and ran off sobbing. It was maddening. Hermione frowned down at her loop notebook, thinking of the elf. Then she took a relaxing breath, 5 beats in, 5 beats out. She considered the Aimée problem another time. The lump under the covers had shifted slightly, and some people had small respect for life or organization plans. She cracked open a journal and rapidly wrote the date and time. 5 things to look forward to. 1. The Chateau's library's 1750s copy of Perneuf-Lamer's Magical History of France that Draco promised to start translating aloud to her after lunch. 2. Her plan to take waterproof cloaks to the fishing village today, along with jars of caulking material. Some of those wretched boats the villagers were squatting in were quite leaky. The body under the covers beside her was definitely moving, and a warm hand brushed her ankle, moving up her bare leg. Somebody was waking up and unlikely to take no for an answer. So spoiled. She wrote a large 3 in her notebook, but her attention was distracted now as a rough palm moved to her knee and she felt a hot breath on her hip. The hand moved slowly higher, and the breath moved to meet it. Hermione wrote quickly. The first 2 items on their 5 things to look forward to today list often changed these days, but the last 3 never wavered. 3. Draco. 4. Draco. 5. Draco. The end. Thank you all for listening to this very long book by ThebeMoon named The Gloriana Set. I was actually very worried that I might not be able to finish this extremely long story. I love this story so much, so I was very happy that ThebeMoon actually gave me the permission to record this, but it was a quite intimidating piece of work. But I'm very thankful for everyone who stuck with me throughout these recordings and this book, and made it until the end. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I hope that I will see you in my next recording.